No one takes the blame. Time passes, and the rainforest and the native Brazilians are being wiped out. There is no place for them in a developed Brazil, although with a little bit of luck, they may receive a handout.
We have an agreement with the Indians. We understand that the entire region earns more money, and it is not possible that only they live in misery. Therefore, we pay them a toll for every truck, every car that passes through their land. Thanks to this money, the Indians are able to take care of their health, buy what they need, and as well, they create some infrastructures to live better. Thus, our relationship with indigenous people in Mato Grosso is the best one possible, with mutual respect between the Indians and the state owners, and the state owners and the Indians.
Is the generous king of soy referring to this unfamiliar mansion? Or this luxurious spa? 200 years ago, the Guarani Kiowa Indians occupied 25% of the land in Mato Grosso, an area similar to Portugal or Indiana. Today, the 25,000 men and women of this ethnic group occupy less than 1% of this territory, living confined to tiny reserves, a space equal to 60 soccer fields. It's impossible to keep fighting. There are too many broken dreams and not enough vital space for survival in the future. The National Foundation for the Indians makes futile demands that the settlers leave the native people's lands and that the situation be corrected despite social prejudices.
Is it possible for the Indians to survive this culture shock that we are experiencing right now with this population density? They need land space, but that isn't going to reduce soy production in any way, not even for the settlers. They say that the Indians are going to throw them off their land, but they're not talking about the settlers in general, just the 38 colonists within the Indian village, not the others. They're outside of the village boundaries, and they wouldn't have any problems.
The world of soy has already strangled other ethnic groups such as the Xavante, the Enawenenawe, and the Terena. Exhausting natural resources in Amazonia is much more heartless than in other natural areas around the world. We've said it before, here the rainforest has become human. Whoever wants to destroy the jungle to do business will have to murder the people living there. He will lead a certain genocide. The youths of Panambizinho, disoriented and hopeless, make it easy for the settlers and take their own lives. The statistics are horrifying. Between the ages of 12 and 18, there have been 123 suicides, and between 18 and 24, 63. That means 65% of all suicides take place before the age of 25. Among all these young Indians, this girl was saved. The orange juice was stronger than the pesticide that she tried to kill herself with. Miraculously, the doctors were able to save her. The settlers have completely destroyed the rainforest, their source of life. The rest of the tribe lives confined on a reserve that is not surviving either. We don't know how long they will want to continue to live. We only know that the smiling faces of the Indians are needed by this tortured land.
She had been saving the poison for 2 months. She was working for an estate owner here on the land for very little money, and the owner was afraid she would poison herself. He had the poison hidden, but she knew where it was. She found it and divided it among the 3 of them. There were 3 of them. 2 women and a man. All the 3 of them died. My friend always talked about the land. She would say, I want to get married, but how am I going to get married if I don't have a place to build a new home? She would speak hopefully about marrying her man, but they didn't have a place to live. She was obsessed. She said that she would come live with me. She always talked to me. She told me everything. She always talked to me. We don't want to move to another area. We want our land. Our land and no other. We don't want to go anywhere else. I tried to commit suicide, and I will try again if this continues.
Suicide is like a cry for help. The Indians are disorganized. Hunting and fishing doesn't exist, or even land. Good education, or good medical services. The Indians do not have plantations or receive a salary at the end of the month. They don't work and don't have the resources to do so. Therefore, suicide is the way to ask the authorities for help, because due to this lack of organization, they cannot live in a traditional manner, with the harmony that unites them with nature. The past will never return, since the settlers, the white society, the estate owners have destroyed practically all the natural resources that existed in these villages.
The Kiowas are demanding what is fair, at least 1,240 hectares of the traditional lands that belong to them according to the law.
Systematically, in the last 30, 20 years, everything that was not indigenous area is being demolished. Everything that doesn't form part of the indigenous area, which is the Biopiracy area, which is good for agriculture, is completely besieged by single crop farming companies. Thus, it is producing a great impact on the economy and on the natural resources of these settlements. It is a very important issue because everything that is not considered an indigenous area is being invaded and ecologically destroyed.
Like the Redskins who live in the north, they live on reserves, cornered with no way out. These people do not have a lot to celebrate since the so-called discovery of Brazil 500 years ago. Misery has discovered them. On the threshold of a new century, an activity such as agriculture, which once gave man dignity, has become a poisonous weapon of destruction. First, there was the rubber plant, then gold and wood, and now soy. Economic arguments for devastation without scruples. After visiting this besieged reserve, it's time for reflection. The great producer of soy, the giant of the Mercosur common market, is also a country where 60% of its inhabitants suffer malnutrition. Brazil should do everything it can to change this situation if it really wants to be called a modern country. Some Brazilians, after the development, cannot appreciate the change. Their passion for life has faded, and as a last act of pride, they prefer to kill themselves before being killed. Remember that up until our arrival, 308 indigenous people had committed suicide on this southern settlement.
We don't know why she killed herself. When she began to cry, she was already dying. She was already falling on the floor. All of a sudden, she sat up and began to talk to me, and she said, "Mother, I took the poison. Just a little. I only took... It wasn't a lot, Mother." She sucked her finger and she fell again. In just seconds, she was dead. She died just a month ago. I now only have one son left, who's left alone. Just one son. The only daughter I had committed suicide. She disappeared. She died and it ended.
Die and end it. This is the first and last lesson of this dismal subject that we have learned about today. If they stole our land, what would we be? For centuries, man has been fascinated by the enormous wealth of the tropical forests. Many years have been invested in searching for ways to capture the treasures of wood, food, and precious metals. Our next episode will reveal the irreversible consequences of the gold fever in Amazonia. A lesson of an underground economy that we will never forget. We will search for reasonable ways out of the Amazonian labyrinth, a truly priceless paradise. We will see each other here, as always, in Amazonia. Pay close attention to its last call.